Kia ora everybody, welcome back to another video. My name is Becca. This last week we asked everybody for a bunch of questions and we got them, so we're so excited. We're gonna have so much fun. We have Billy moderating. So he's gonna be asking all the questions and hopefully we can get through everybody's. So excited. Let's go. We wanted to do a Q&A today because we are really bored, and also mainly because we wanted to get to know each other a little better. I wanted to know what everybody was interested in, and I also wanted to answer questions so that everybody can get to know me more. So here we are.
Okay, let's go.
Ooh, okay.
Why did you decide to move to New Zealand?
Well, it was very easy for us because Billy got a job out here. So he's a musician, he plays the French horn, and he won a job through a recorded audition with the Auckland Philharmonia Orchestra. So when he was extended an invitation for a trial year, we very gladly accepted that. And yep, that's why we're here.
How have you found living here and the people?
Oh my goodness, we love it here so much. I feel like I talk about this all the time, but we absolutely love the people. I think that's my favorite part. The country is so beautiful and we just love traveling and exploring, and we want to see every bit of it. And I mean, there's not much that you can hate about New Zealand. We love the food, the beaches, the mountains, everything. Everything.
What are things you dislike about New Zealand so far that you don't think you will get used to?
Definitely the housing prices. Average price of an Auckland home right now is $1.2 million. So it's pretty scary as a new family that just moved here, trying to figure out how to get onto the property ladder. But other than that, not much. Maybe the traffic. This is so fun. Okay, next question.
I found that when Americans say they're moving, quite often they just mean as an extended stay, like 6 to 12 months. Do you see your move as a permanent one, an indefinite one, or just for a year or two?
Okay, so Billy technically won a year trial with the APO. So if he passes that trial, then he will be signed on with a permanent contract. We can stay as long as we want. So we're still in that year-long trial. So technically we don't know if we're going to be here past a year. But our visa is a 3-year visa. But we definitely hope to stay here for much longer.
Is Billy enjoying his job? Oh, that's me. Yes, I'm enjoying my job. It's a very... What in the world? Our son's fingernail got me. It's a very enjoying and fulfilling job. We have concerts every week and we perform really great music. I'm really sad that it's not happening right now because of the lockdowns. I really enjoy working with a lot of the musicians here. It's kind of a lot of Kiwis and Aussies and Americans and Canadians. So it's a whole mix of different people, and it's really fun just to perform with them. As a music job, it's kind of similar to other things I've done in America. Just it has kind of a normal structure. So that's similar to working in America, especially for orchestras. Another question here is, how comfortable were you with moving to New Zealand, and did you look at other countries? While I was auditioning, I took 25 auditions, and many of them were in other countries: Iceland, Canada, New Zealand, and I was fine winning a job in any of them. That's what we call it. We call it winning, because you have to compete somewhat against 50 plus other people for one spot. It's very stressful. I'm kind of glad to not have to do it right now. It's been such a good experience playing with them and so many musicians. I can't wait to get back. What are your plans for a summer Christmas?
Okay, so we don't really know quite yet, but we are thinking about going down to the South Island for Christmas, which just sounds so lovely. Yeah, this will be our first summer Christmas, which is so weird because I already didn't like American Christmas, how commercialistic it was, and now that we're going to be here in the middle of summer, like, it's just going to seem even more tacky and out of place with, like, jolly old Saint Nick in his fur coat and the reindeers bouncing in snow. Like, all that's just going to seem so more out of place. I don't know. We'll see how it goes. We're very much looking forward to spending Christmas on a beach, though. It sounds very nice.
Where in New Zealand haven't you been but would like to?
Most of New Zealand. So we've only been here for like 7 months now. We've been as far up as Whangarei Heads and over to Piha and then down to Tauranga and Coromandel. So yeah, there's a lot that we need to go and visit still. We're so excited to go down to the South Island, but I'm also really excited to go up to Northland and explore up there. And yeah, the south part of the North Island too, like Wellington and that whole area. I just have a huge list running of all the things that I want to see.
Do you plan to see or go to less known places?
Yeah. I get so many comments on here from friends on YouTube, and they tell me all these little secret places, and those always end up being our favorite places, the ones that are off the beaten path and that aren't super touristy or overcrowded.
Okay, now I have some rapid fire questions for you.
Oh, okay.
What do you do in your free time?
Right now, video games.
What video game do you play?
Hollow Knight is what I'm playing right now.
What's your favorite video game?
Ocarina of Time, Legends of Zelda.
What's your favorite book?
All-time favorite would be East of Eden.
What do you recommend everyone reads and why?
Well, it depends what you're into, but if you're into any kind of fantasy or anything like that, definitely Brandon Sanderson. Start with Mistborn, I'd say. I think that's one of the reasons why Billy started dating me, is because I read that book, because he loves Brandon Sanderson, and I really like him, but he's obsessed. He's a really good author, though.
Why do you guys have matching boots?
Back in 2017 is when we bought them. I wanted to find a nice leather waterproof boot, because we were still in New York City and slogging through the black water in the winter time in little flats was not comfortable. I was trying to find a good boot, and I hated all the little flimsy girl boots that fell apart after 6 months. I tried to find a good quality one, and that's how I found Blundstones. So I found the perfect pair for me, and then Billy saw them and was like, I want some too. And so he ordered the exact same color and everything, the little turd. So yeah, that's how we have matching boots. But we have worn the crap out of them since we've gotten them. We love them. We got them for Christmas as a gift and haven't stopped wearing them since.
What's your favorite type of music?
Indie.
And who's your favorite artist?
Cage the Elephants.
What's your favorite food?
Watermelon and peanut butter.
What place would you love to visit in the United States?
Alaska.
Have you ever broken a bone?
Yes, my right arm when I was 5. I jumped off of a slide and then it tripped up and...
If you had $1 million, what would you do with it?
I would invest it, and so that I could keep getting more money, and then with that money I would reach out and help individual people that I know in my life. One of the things that I really want to do if I got a ton of money is I would want to help people be able to adopt children that want to but can't afford to.
What's something you really hate doing?
Getting in cold water. I really don't like being cold, so anything that has to do with that. Or getting wet when I don't want to, that's another thing.
What are you afraid of?
Hydroplaning in a car and roaches. Those are 2 irrational fears of mine.
What's your favorite sport?
I used to really like watching football in high school because my family all has a big football culture, but I really want to get into rugby. Not that I've been to one yet.
Would you consider getting a bike?
No, because I am scared of biking. I'm not very good at it. Billy would love to get a bike. He really likes it. But there's a big biking culture here, and a lot of people love biking here. There are a lot of hills here, so be warned of that, though. You have to be in pretty good shape to get around, I think.
What do you consider the weirdest things in your personality?
I do like being lazy, but also being lazy makes me unhappy, so I feel like I'm always at war with myself.
How do you find driving on the New Zealand roads, and what do you drive?
So easy. It only takes maybe a day, not even a day, to figure out how to drive on the roads here. They're pretty straightforward. You have the opposite sides of the road kind of thing. It only takes a minute to figure out. The windshield wipers were the hardest part. I turn on the windshield wipers a lot of times trying to turn on the blinkers. And we just drive a little old trusty Honda.
How does your first New Zealand winter compare to U.S. winter?
So nice. So I grew up in Texas, and those were the roughest winters I had experienced, but they were actually very mild looking back on it now. It's actually pretty similar to that, I would say. It doesn't really get to freezing very much, if at all, and pretty wet and humid. But the last 4 years, me and Billy have been through Utah and New York winters with lots of snow, lots of very freezing cold temperatures. We have been very happy with this last winter because it's pretty nice. It doesn't get very cold at all. And it'll be rainy, but usually it'll rain for a few days, and then you'll get this perfect, sunshiny, gorgeous day, and you're like, how do they consider this winter? Also, a note about that is that we live in Auckland, and so that doesn't apply to the rest of New Zealand. They definitely get snow and very cold temperatures in other places.
Would you like to share your love story or how your relationship developed?
Okay, so story time. So at Brigham Young University, that's where we both went to college, we lived right next door. Like literally the next door over was his apartment. So I moved into that apartment like later in the summer than everybody else did, halfway through it. And so he had already tried to date all of my roommates. But it didn't work out, and so he just became friends with all of them. So he was over quite a bit. And then I moved in, he met me. I was pretty shy and not very outgoing, and so he would invite me to all the social events, but then he wasn't really interested in me at the time, and so he would just go and then run off with other girls, which is fine. Like, it wasn't a date or anything. He was just inviting me to get me out and to associate with other people, I guess, because he's that kind of person. He just likes connecting with people. Anyways, slowly with time we started texting, and then it actually was because of Lord of the Rings that I think we started hitting it off more. So we had some friends that were showing all of the Lord of the Rings discs, one per night, and so he would invite me to those. And so like the first night we ended up on opposite sides on opposite couches, and then slowly it was like we got one seat closer until by one of the last couple ones we were sitting next to each other, and he like reached over and grabbed my hand. But I was so nervous. I was tucked up in a ball and he had to like reach his hand underneath mine and was holding like one of my fingers, and I was like, oh, I can't do this. But anyways, after he held my hand during that movie, he like walked me over to my apartment, which is right across the corner, and then he asked me on a date. But it was also funny because at the same time there was a girl, I won't say her name, but she lived in the apartment complex, and she was like very aggressively pursuing Billy, and she was sending him texts about how much she liked him and wanted to go on dates with him. And so he like friend zoned me hardcore, but he'd already set up the date with me. And so he was like, well, I guess we'll go ahead and go on it. But I was like, well, you don't have to if you just feel obligated to. And he was like, no, let's go on it. So we went on it, and he had such a fun time with me that he ended up canceling his date with the other girl. And yeah, that is how we started dating.
What was your first date?
Our first date, we went to a museum that's on BYU campus, and it's a bunch of taxidermied animals. The Bean Museum is what it's called. And so we went and did that, and we made a bunch of animal noises, and it was really fun. And then we walked in the rain to the creamery, and then we got the kids' meals, which are so good there. And then ice cream comes with it. So that was our first date. The rest of the story, we dated for 5 months, and then we were engaged for 7 and got married. It was almost exactly a year from starting to date to marriage, but that's just fast Mormon marriage for you. I was 20 when we got married, and Billy was 24, so little babies.
What do you love most about each other?
I had to force him to ask this question. I love how like comfortable and safe I feel around you all the time. I think is one of my biggest things. Like you feel like home to me. Now you have to answer.
I think what I first liked about Becca was that I could just be myself around her. I didn't have to hide parts of my personality. I could just be normal and kind of weird, goofy. And that was really nice. It was like, oh, okay, I enjoy being with you, rather than, oh, I'm trying to fight to keep your attention or anything. So it's just so easy to just have fun together.
That's what you liked in the beginning, but what do you love most about me now?
But now you just make life so much easier. You're willing to move to New Zealand. You're willing to travel across the world with me or whatever. And that just makes life great. Funny/strange question, but what do toilets look like over there?
Toilets? They're all different, I swear. Here's a picture of our toilet. Usually it has a higher up tank, and it's like a low flush toilet, which is really nice. It saves water.
Was it difficult to get a house or an apartment? What is the cost like?
So it's really, really expensive. It wasn't too bad finding a place. I think there's always places available for renters. Buying is a totally different story. I'm not talking about that at all. We put a lot more stress on ourselves because we gave ourselves a week in an Airbnb to find a place to rent, so don't recommend that. Cost-wise, it's really expensive. They pay by the week here, which is interesting. We ended up going $50 more a week to be able to find the place that we live in now. So we did go out of our budget that we had kind of made for ourselves. but we felt like it was worth it because everything else that we were looking at in our cheaper range was not good.
What was the process like finding a place?
It's really important to have all of your paperwork and references and everything completely lined up and ready to go. So we looked at our place, and then by that night we had submitted our application for it, because you kind of have to jump on it immediately to be able to get what you're looking at. Because at the little open house that we were at, there were 3 other families here looking at it. So that is our biggest tip, I think.
Does your credit in the States affect how you can obtain things here?
I don't know. They might look at it just as a reference of if you have good or bad credit, but I don't think they particularly care about your specific number or ask you for a credit report. From what I remember, I could be wrong.
Apart from family and friends, what do you miss the most from home?
Definitely the cheaper prices. So you could get a ton of food for way cheaper. You could get fast food for cheaper, housing, cars, gas, everything is just a lot less expensive there. So that would be the only thing I'd say. Nothing else besides family.
Are family and friends keen to visit now that they've seen the content you share?
Everybody wants to come and visit us, and I'm so excited for when the borders open because we're going to be hosting a lot of family.
How do your family in America feel about your move to New Zealand? And are they tempted to follow you out there?
We definitely have some family members that wish that they could move out here with us, and I wish that they could as well. But most of our family was really excited. There are some people that were more sad than excited, maybe, like my mother. But it's okay. We FaceTime her every day, and as soon as the borders open, they're going to come and visit. So it's fine.
Can you give a summarized breakdown of cost of living? Just a general estimate.
Expensive. I mean, this is for us and our cost of living. Other people might be more frugal. Other people might be more spendy. But I would say expect to spend $500 to $600 on housing every week, and then maybe around $300 for utilities, and then for food I would say probably $200 every other week. So it's not cheap.
What are things or places that are very similar to the States?
Ooh, okay, that's a good one. So I think I would say that the kindness of the people here and helpfulness kind of reminds me of the South, maybe. But the moderate temperature of Auckland reminds me more of California. There are so many different regions in the U.S., and even in New Zealand it varies very widely depending on where you're at. So it's really hard to pinpoint.
Is it easier to parent here?
I would say yes. So I feel like in the U.S., a lot of people are scared to interact with your child unless they've had children or they work with children. Everybody else just kind of keeps a wide berth. But here, I feel like everybody is so much more interactive with our child. So that's really nice to watch. But also, like, the government has 20 hours free of childcare, and that starts when they turn 3, and that's incredible. Like, that would allow me to go back to work. But there's just a lot more structure and support for children, and they focus a lot more on kids here, I would say. Plus there's like maternity leave, which is actually a thing here. Like, I know it's a thing in the US, but it's like 6 weeks, whereas here you get a whole year off. And another big thing was that in the US, I was pretty sure that I was going to homeschool my children because I am pretty terrified of school shootings. Luckily, those haven't been an issue in New Zealand. It's another really big thing because I am comfortable with the idea of putting my children in just public school here.
You mentioned you were Mormon. Why did you leave the Mormon church?
So, this can be kind of a sensitive topic. I'm very comfortable talking about it, but I also know that our parents watch these. Short story is that me and Billy were born into the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, or the Mormon Church, and we grew up with it. We were married in the Mormon temple. Billy went on a Mormon mission, and we really loved it up until the point where, was it 4 years ago, that we decided to look into the history of the church. What we found, we just didn't agree with at all, and it went against everything that we believed and that we were taught. So we made the very hard decision to leave the church. It felt like my whole foundation in life was crumbling beneath me. So yeah, we definitely went through like a faith crisis, and it was very scary and hard, and a lot of tears were shed. but we came out on the other side a lot happier, I would say. It took us 2 years to tell our parents. Now it's great. We don't have any other religion that has taken its place since. We're kind of disenchanted with religion right now. Ultimately, the history is what made us leave the church, but now that we look at the whole church with a different lens, we also don't like the culture and how they approach certain subjects, such as homosexuality or LGBTQ, and we don't like tithing, we don't like polygamy. There are a lot of things that we don't agree with, and so we left.
How is it that your surname is so clearly the opposite of your personality?
Well, I didn't choose it. I guess I did kind of choose it because I married him, but I really like it. My last name used to be a very common name, so it was fun to get something a little more unique.
Do you play a musical instrument, Becca?
No. Technically, I took like 4 years of piano as a kid, so I can plunk out a tune if I had to. I played the clarinet through middle school and high school. Definitely way into band. But I haven't touched an instrument since then, so being married to a musician and associating with musicians that have made music their life, I like to say, no, I don't play a musical instrument.
Would you want your son to play a musical instrument?
If he wanted to. Billy's always kind of saying it would be nice if he didn't, because it's a pretty scary job to go into sometimes, but it is such a fulfilling career, and if he really wanted to and it became his passion, then I would love for him to do whatever he wanted to. But that can be it for any career field.
Why don't you eat meat?
So it mainly started with factory farming. I hate it so much that I didn't want to support it at all, and so I decided not to buy or eat any sort of meat. Now, that was in America, where factory farming is a lot more prevalent. It's actually so prevalent you can't not eat meat without it being factory farmed. Here in New Zealand, I feel it is a lot different. I'm still not comfortable eating meat, but I am okay eating dairy and eggs and stuff. We don't usually buy it for our own home, but if we go out or we go to friends' houses where they make us something and it has dairy or eggs in it, we are okay eating that. Like, I'm not about restricting our life just on that.
How long have you been plant-based / vegetarian?
So I went hardcore vegan for a whole year back in 2018. Once I was pregnant, I started laxing up just a tiny bit. Like, I had dairy, I think, twice that year. Pizza and ice cream. Since 2018, I guess, is the answer to that question. Also, New Zealand is such a dairy-centric place. I'm coming to find out they love their butter and their ice cream, and we just moved here, and I definitely want to experience that. And yeah, I don't want to restrict my life. I don't want to control Billy, and I also don't want to create weird food issues with our baby. So I've learned how to relax. But in the beginning, Billy didn't want to be vegan at all. So the more that I learned, the more strongly I wanted to do it. So I kind of did it first and then slowly kind of coerced him into doing it. So just by kind of telling him everything that I was learning as I was learning it, and eventually he was on the same page as me.
What's your favorite vegan product from the grocery store?
Produce. I really like my veggies, but if I had to pick out like a vegan thing, I would have to say vegan sausages are really good.
Where do you see yourself in 5 years?
Ooh, okay. Still in Auckland. Billy's still doing his job. I would love to somehow have been able to have bought a house right outside of Auckland, kind of in a quieter area. I think I would like to keep doing YouTube and Instagram and stuff like that. Another kid by then. Yeah, that's kind of it.
Oh, look who woke up. Also, that's all the questions.
Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next week.